Gordon, Frank, Starlight, how you doing? We got a lot to cover today. We're just waiting, start pinging some people in, waiting for everybody to show up. We got the video stream going, and Eli, what is? Did you see some of the headlines of the day? I mean, you're reading them, so I'm sure.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can see me looking at my little prompter here on my phone. I was just scrolling through some headlines for today. Wow. Okay.
There's some fun ones in there, isn't there?
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
All right. What are you? Let's just if you want to, I'm gonna invite Mike up and Jamie just to hang out so they can jump in any time. And we are going into the countdown.
Yeah, I'm gonna ping a couple of people into the room. This is the Music News Power Hour.
Songwriters Fund is reopening. YouTube is one of the only social media platforms with growth. The dirty business of songwriting, a copyright lawsuit against Rockstar Games, the problem with NFTs, Chika retiring from the music industry because of mental toll, and Mudhoney's boring machine. And what is a day without your daily Spotify updates? It's Tuesday. We have a lot to talk about. But first, let's turn to my co-host, Eli Window. How are you, Eli?
I'm doing great. My dog keeps trying to climb into my lap. So those of you who are watching on the stream, you might see his little snout pop up. He wants to say hello, but he's doing great too. How are you, Peter?
Doing good. I forgot to turn on my lights here. So anybody on the stream is like, hey, why is that person all in shadows?
So maybe it's like an art piece.
I love it. All right. So how we do this is we scour the World Wide Web for music business news that we find important, and maybe you do too. We're going to start off really shortly. First, I want to welcome everybody tuning in our video live stream. Feel free to say hi and add any questions or comments in the chat. What we do here is we read key sections from the articles for the first 20, 30 minutes and open the stage for continued discussion, roundtable for the remainder of the hour. And feel free to raise your hand during the topic read if you'd like to come on stage and offer your thoughts. And this is being live streamed and recorded on the Music Industry City's channels. And we also have our show notes, which is at musicindustrycity.com. You can get a link to all the headlines and articles in our show notes, which you go to musicindustrycity.com and you click on the graphic for Clubhouse Information Center. And that has all the stuff there for you. And, let's, if you're liking this, you can also join Music Industry City for free. And that gives you all the updates for all the shows that we do outside, because we do other live streaming as well. And let's get to it. Eli, this day in history, we had some really interesting stuff. What do you got?
We definitely had some interesting stuff. Let's begin by remembering some amazing music. On this day in 2019, English keyboardist and guitarist Paul Raymond died, aged 73. He joined Plastic Penny in the early 60s as their keyboardist, their vocalist, and replaced Christine McVie's British blues band Chicken Shack. He first joined UFO in 1976 and played with the band during 4 different stints. He was a regular in the UFO lineup since 2003. Raymond had also worked with Michael Schenker in MSG, in remembrance today. On this day in 1942, American composer and conductor Bill Conti, who had the 1977 U.S. #1 single Gonna Fly Now, theme from Rocky, Happy Birthday, from 1942. Born on this day in 1946, American singer-songwriter Al Green, who had the U.S. #1 single Let's Stay Together, plus over 10 other top 40 hits. Born on this day in 1946. Born on this day in 1951, American drummer and television personality Max Weinberg with Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. Weinberg won an audition to become the drummer for Springsteen in 1974. He played on the 1975 single Born to Run. Oh, classic. He is also the leader of the Max Weinberg 7 on U.S. Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Born on this day in 1955, Louis Johnson from Brothers Johnson, who had the 1980 U.S. #4 and UK #6 single Stomp. Johnson played on the Michael Jackson albums Off the Wall, Thriller, and Dangerous. Also born on this day in 1962, Hillel Slovak, guitar for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He recorded 2 albums with the band in 1985 and in 1987. He unfortunately died from a heroin overdose the 27th of June, 1988. On this day in 1975, German mambo musician Lou Bega, who's most famous for Mambo Number 5. Let's not even talk about a little bit of Monica in our lives. But happy birthday. And turning to this day in history, today, April 13th in 1982, David Crosby was arrested when police found him preparing cocaine backstage in his dressing room before a show in Dallas. On this day in 1996, Rage Against the Machine appeared on NBC's Saturday Night Live, and their 2-song performance was actually cut to 1 song when the band attempted to hang inverted American flags from their amplifiers. They'll cut you on SNL. On this day, April 13th in 2003, Madonna struck back at websites who are offering illegal downloads of her new album, American Life, by flooding file-sharing networks with decoy files. When the files were opened, listeners were greeted by the voice of Madonna asking, "What the fuck do you think you're doing?" Go Madonna. On this day, April 13th in 2009, 68-year-old U.S. music producer Phil Spector was convicted of murdering actress Lana Clarkson after a 5-month retrial. He had pleaded not guilty to the second-degree murder of 40-year-old Ms. Clarkson, who was shot in the mouth at Spector's home in Los Angeles. During the 5-month retrial, 5 female acquaintances testified that Spector had threatened them at gunpoint in incidences dating back to the 1970s. An earlier trial was abandoned in 2007 after a jury failed to reach a unanimous decision. Spector was remanded in custody until sentencing, though, on the 29th of May, 2009. Wow, big day today. A lot of things happened today in history.
Indeed, a lot. That was a lot.
I just kind of have to process all of that, you know, from Madonna asking, "What the fuck do you think you're doing?" to, wow, the history that happened, the highs, the lows, the birthdays, the losses.
Yeah.
Big day. And here we all thought April 15th was the April day that we wanted to worry about.
And Phil Spector just died recently, didn't he? Like a couple months ago.
Well, one of my favorites out of that was Rage Against the Machine getting cut off after 1 song. I mean, at least they didn't get the they didn't get the Elvis same effect that Elvis Costello did when they were like, "Don't play that song," and then he's like, "Nah, I'm not going to play that. Oh no, I won't play that song." And then he gets on stage like, "Hey, you know something? We're going to play this song." Nah, I decided to play that other song, and then gets banned from SNL for majority of his career, which didn't really. I think it actually helped him.
You know, the real story behind that is that the only reason that he didn't want to play the song that he was supposed to be playing, or the song that he started at the beginning of it, is because it referred to some topical politicians, like a couple of MPs in the UK. It was kind of a pot shot at them, and he didn't think that it would translate as well to the American audience. And the only other song that he thought was upbeat at the time, or that they were excited about playing, was Radio Radio. It wasn't a slight at all, but it was sort of taken that way after the fact. He explains all that in his book, which I highly recommend.
Right. Awesome. All right. And with that, let's get into the news. All right, and our first article comes from digitalmusicnews.com. And once again, you can check out all the headlines and links to these articles in the show notes at musicindustrycity.com. And you click on the graphic for Clubhouse Information Center, and you'll be able to find it in there along with a bunch of other information. So let's get to it. This one, the headline is, after distributing $400,000 to songwriters, the Songwriter Fund is reopening applications. It's called the Sona and Sony Music Publishing backed Songwriter Fund is officially preparing to reopen the application process. The quick approaching 3rd round of financial support from the Songwriters Fund, which initially began accepting aid applications in May of 2020 and provided compensation to a 2nd round of songwriters in January of this year, just recently came to light. At the time of this piece's writing, higher-ups hadn't yet specified the application reopening date on social media or on the Songwriter Fund website. However, multiple outlets have indicated that songwriters will have the chance to apply for this latest round of financial assistance beginning Wednesday, April 28th. Assuming that the nearly year-old entity utilizes the same relief application and maintains the same applicant requirements, this time around stateside songwriters who are age 18 or older have written music professionally for at least 2 years and have been part of a performing rights organization for 2 years or longer can file to receive aid. The resulting $1,000 grant, the Songwriters Fund emphasizes, is an application walkthrough video, quote, must be used for critical life expenses, including food, housing, and or medical bills, to name some categories. Additionally, applicants are required to disclose their personal info as well as provide a photocopy of their ID, proof of their association with PRO, proof of their songwriting credits, and more. And the article goes on, and also what we're noting is the Songwriting Fund describes itself as, quote, one of only 2 funds set up to directly care for our songwriting community in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, with other presumably being PRS for Music's Emergency Relief Fund. The UK Collection Society kicked off 2021 by unveiling a license for small-scale live stream gigs before walking back the pivot following massive indie backlash. Separately, Brown Eyed Girl singer and songwriter Van Morrison last November launched a, quote, lockdown financial hardship fund to support struggling musicians. The said fund was quickly oversubscribed, and its second round of compensation went out in February 2021. Well, that's good. Some good news for songwriters.
Yeah, definitely. Let's hear good news for songwriters always. We love that.
Trying to keep everybody going. All right. And this one is from The Guardian. Title is Cash Gifts and Strong Arm Tactics. Music's Problem with NFTs. All right, blockchain technology makes non-fungible tokens unique, but uncertainty surrounds how the rights and ownership of songwriters, producers, and session musicians apply in sales. And this is a real interesting because, as we all know, this NFTs, if you haven't been living under a rock, you might have missed out, but NFTs are kind of this all the rage right now, and there is a lot of legal concerns, copyrights, intellectual property, all this stuff. So this, we're starting to see artists include Gorillaz, Calvin Harris, and Kings of Leon jumped on the bandwagon. So this article really goes into start talking about it's an important step that this is, at the end of, I'll bring this back. At the end of February, Grimes sold 10 pieces of digital artwork as NFTs for $6 million, while Deadmau5 is offering bundles. The Weeknd generated $2.2 million, as well as a single work that includes the full track, which he says will not be released anywhere in the future. It's important to say this is not a step towards a paywall. The registering is a free and simple way to help us sustain. Okay. So that's what one of the things they were saying is there's paywalls, for certain things. And is this going to be another paywall for NFTs? But there's more to this, and it's the legal side of things. All right. So sorry about that. I have to click. So despite the clear traceability, there remains enormous uncertainty about just how the rights and ownership of the original creators, from songwriters and producers to session musicians, apply in an NFT sale that includes music. One songwriter behind the tens of millions of streams has found themselves in the middle of this debate. Speaking anonymously because they are preparing for legal action against the sellers, they said a song they co-wrote was sold as part in an NFT package for reportedly in excess of $10 million. Neither they nor their music publisher were informed until the vendor contacted them with the offer of a cash gift that worked out to 0.07% of the reported sale. So that would be about $7,000. Attached was a contract waiving any future claim on the NFT or share of any resales. Quote, even though I asked repeatedly for them to break down how they got to this calculation, they wouldn't reveal how much money it had made, they said. There is no real precedent. Music sold this way tends to be new pieces specifically for an NFT sale, not pre-existing songs that have already been commercially released. Songwriters are increasingly calling for a fairer share of streaming revenues, as well as an end to strong-arm tactics whereby major pop stars take a cut of songwriting royalties they had no involvement in writing. Any further grabs on the rights will like to be seen as callous. All right, so Cliff Fluent, a partner at legal firm Lewis Silken, does not represent either party. He says an argument of the NFT sales would probably be that they are not selling the music, but a wider experience. Quote, the sellers may argue until they are blue in the face, and that they are probably correct, that the vast majority of value is not for the music. The vast majority of value is for the experience, the scarcity of the token, and multitude of components and reward as an NFT. The songwriter is concerned that in accepting the gift, they could be in breach of their publishing agreement, whereby the publisher typically needs to be involved in and gets a share of all commercial and licensing negotiations. They also regard it as tantamount to a buyout as opposed to a licensing agreement. Quote, I would never outright sell a piece of my music, they said. You can ask for a period of exclusivity, but I don't think any publisher or songwriter would say, yeah, absolutely, go that and take that forever. So it goes on. I mean, it's a really interesting article. It's an interesting take on the fact of, they're using that claim. It's like, oh, well, the music is just one component of it, and it's a small component of it. And again, who owns the rights? And can you put out an NFT with music in it that doesn't belong to you and say, well, it's the experience, and we'll offer you, we'll give you here's some cookie crumbs for you, which is kind of a little bit what this sounds like.
Ugh. Can we just collectively ugh on this?
Yeah, okay. On the count of three, everybody. 1, 2, 3.
This is going to be one that the lawyers, who makes out on this? The lawyers.
Well, yeah, that the lawyers will definitely get paid in all of this, and they'll probably be the only ones who go home happy.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move over to YouTube. This one comes from Digital Music News as well. And again, you can get all these links in the show notes at musicindustrycity.com. Click on the graphic that says Clubhouse Information Center. So the title is YouTube is one of the only social media platforms to show growth since 2019. And it's the only platform that's managed to expand its market presence as a share of adult users in the United States between 2019 and 2021, according to a newly published survey from the Pew Research Center. Pew shed light upon this and other interesting social media trends in a study called, quote, Social Media Use in 2021. Per the breakdown, Google-owned YouTube was one of 2 surveyed platforms that experienced a usership uptake across 2019 and late January to February this year. 81% of the participants said they ever use, that's ever, just not never, but it's ever use YouTube as of 2021 against 73% in 2019. Reddit, the only other surveyed platform that experienced statistically significant growth between the periods, saw its user share jump from 11% to 18%. The surveys with 1,502 respondents were also asked whether they use Facebook. 69 said yes. Instagram, 40%. Pinterest, 31. LinkedIn, 28. Snapchat, 21. And it goes down. Twitter, WhatsApp. It keeps on going. So you can check out all those figures in here. What's interesting is, especially interesting, given YouTube's formidable presence in the music video space, is that 54% of the users stated that they visit the platform daily, whereas 36% of respondents say that they visit the platform multiple times per day. Moreover, a full 95% of Americans between the age of 18 and 29 enjoy content on YouTube, per the survey. So this is really interesting. It's Facebook also laid claims to the second highest totals in every other age group, aside from the 65 and up, which it led once again, accepting 18 to 29, which its Instagram subsidiary took 71% to 70%. So, now is Instagram. It's like, we see a drop in 1%, but, we've seen a drop in 1% on Facebook. And, now it's like Facebook is for the older people. And how is this going to affect, the question here is, how is this going to affect our marketing? And what platform? When you have all these platforms, it is so difficult for musicians, people in marketing, social media marketing, to keep on top of everything. It's constantly changing. There's new platforms coming out. It's where to rent a house, in other words, because you're really just renting the followers when you're on there. And if you're not collecting their email addresses, it's hard to keep, saying, hey, we're going over to this platform, and trying to move them over there. Any thoughts on the social medias?
Does that study include TikTok?
It does include something where it say, let me pull that up. TikTok. This says that Okay, out of the 1,500 responders, they were asked which whether they use Facebook or Instagram, and said 21% said TikTok.
Huh, interesting. So, but TikTok wasn't one of the platforms that experienced statistically significant growth in that time?
Correct. The only two platforms that showed any growth was Reddit and YouTube in this
That
age
makes sense to
demographic.
me.
Huh.
That makes sense to me because the teenagers were already on TikTok. That wouldn't have changed. And I imagine that a lot of that growth was probably as a result of lockdown, in which case people were home more. So if a lot of people have either cut the cord or they're using multiple devices in the household. I mean, you can imagine all of us have gone down a YouTube rabbit hole at one time or another. If YouTube wasn't a place where you were normally spending your time and you suddenly had loads of free time, you would definitely discover a whole world available to you on YouTube that you wouldn't have before. But I don't think TikTok would have seen, a significant growth. It would have continued to be insane, but I don't think it would have seen a growth because teenagers have always been on their phones, whether they're at home or at school or whatever.
So you think TikTok experienced explosive growth pre 2019 for the
Yeah,
most part?
prior to that. Yeah, because well, the other thing is to Peter's point about about music. I mean, at this stage, a certain age group, I can't remember where the low point is, but I know 17 or 18. Let's just say for the sake of it, 13 to 18-year-olds almost exclusively discover their music through TikTok because they don't have Spotify or they don't use YouTube because they don't like the ads or any other variety of places to discover new music. It's far more prevalent on TikTok for them. But oldsters like myself, people people over 30,
Hey
let's just
now.
say, people over 30 typically know that if you don't have a Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal or whatever subscription, and you want to hear the new song that everybody's talking about, you can go to YouTube and someone will have uploaded it, and that's where they go to sort of experience it.
YouTube is useful for a lot of things. I actually know some folks who kind of use it as almost like a digital photo album. And so since lockdown, anybody can post on YouTube. So one family member in one state will take a short video at an event and post it to YouTube, and everyone else in the family everywhere else can tune in on YouTube. And so some people are kind of using it as a digital yearbook or photo album, which I think is interesting. But I wanted to take just a quick moment. Welcome everybody who's just joined us in the room. This is the Music News Power Hour, where we scour the World Wide Web for music news that we find interesting, and we think you might too. Feel free to raise your hand if anything that we are speaking about piques your interest and you want to contribute to our discussion. We bring a whole new meaning to the phrase hands up here in the Music News Power Hour. So if we don't invite you to the stage, put your hands up, put your hands up. We will bring you on up to the stage so you can join our discussion. Let's see, Peter, are we out of headlines?
Oh no, we still got plenty of headlines to go. So
Oh, okay. I was going to say
yeah.
there was a lot of on this day in history. I was wondering what's happening on this day today.
Oh yeah, there's still a lot on this day. I mean, some of these are shorter ones, but there is one I do really want to get to, and I'll let you know with that one. I'm going to skip over this. This is a simple kind of neat one. This is 2 Chainz. And as a VR fan, 2 Chainz, this is on hiphopdx.com. 2 Chainz is teaming up with Tidal and Oculus for a 420 virtual reality performance. All right. 2 Chainz has been tapped as the next performer for Tidal and Oculus's virtual reality concert series. Tidy Boy is set to hit the stage after a few puffs of weed-friendly celebration on April 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern. With concerts on the mend for now, virtual performances have been doing their best to take the place of real thing and make fans feel as if they're watching a concert at their favorite venue while they're inside the cozy confines of their home. All right, so Chainz' faithful can tune in through Tidal even if you're not a subscriber to the recently sold streaming services or the Venues app, which contains the Oculus Quest feature for viewers looking for the full virtual reality experience. All right, so he's prior to the performance coming up, he's staying up, cooking up new material in the studio. He's teased a new song just cut earlier on Monday and possibly entitled Inner City Hoodlum, which is produced by Mark Bird. All right, so just a little, I'm really just kind of just a nice little quick article there about the what's going on in the VR world. It's something really interesting to check out. If you have an Oculus headset, Venues is worth checking out. I know there's some people on this app that do a lot of VR production, Anybody have checked out or any experience with some VR shows? Any thoughts?
I did have a question. If anyone can help me understand the Oculus better, does the Oculus can it do anything to like simulate, something for all five of your senses? So, for example, can the Oculus headset simulate like a smell?
The Oculus can't. And what I've heard
Okay.
is companies have been working on that. So, and it actually got banned. And it was I don't remember all of this headline by any means. It was a while ago. It's kind of something I skimmed over. Is that they were working on this smell, like a scent, so almost kind of like an aerosol spray. But what they did is, like, I think the government shut it down because of fear of kind of like probably like bioweapons or just hazards or some kind of chemicals. I think it might have been all of that. So they're saying no, you can't do this, and it's got to get under some regulation.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
going to sleep well tonight on that note.
Right on. All right, so keeping with more of the VR and gaming. Okay, so this was a local one, is from 10 News. Is musician files lawsuit in San Diego against Rockstar Games over alleged copyright infringement. So copyright infringement lawsuit Thursday in San Diego federal court against video game publisher Rockstar Games for allegedly using a melody he composed without his permission in two of its popular Grand Theft Auto games. Sean Lee, who composed the soundtrack for one of Rockstar's prior games, Bully, alleges the company lifted elements from a song it had asked him to submit, then used those portions in the games, Grand Theft Auto and Grand Theft Auto 5. Rockstar did not immediately respond for comment. Okay, so Lee alleges the company, which is based out in New York City, office in Carlsbad, asked him to submit music in 2008 for use in Grand Theft Auto 4. According to the complaint, Lee submitted a spec track, but was told the material was ultimately not going to be used, quote, for reasons unknown to Lee. Lee later used portions of the track on an album called Reel to Reel, which was released by Custom SA-based Ubiquity Records, also a plaintiff in the suit. Lee alleges that late last year he discovered that, quote, certain compositions and stems containing a certain melody and riff that had been presented to the defendant were used in Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5. He alleges that portions of his song Biker Chick and substantially similar to the Soviet Connection theme song used in the games, as well as another song called Liberty City Loop in Grand Theft Auto 5. You hear the stories, the horror stories of, people saying like, oh, I submitted a song, and it creates such a concern. I mean, for the most part, it's for the amount of times this happens, it's bad press. It's bad to hear this. I mean, we don't know the situation, but, what are your thoughts? Anybody thoughts on, this kind of situation?
Hey, Peter. Good morning.
Hey, Brad, how you doing?
Hi, Brad.
Good. Had to keep popping in and out there. I used to work with a high-profile artist that would have me once a week checking an insane amount of songs in fear that people were ripping her song off. This was a huge song, a big artist. I think we've talked about in other rooms too, receiving unsolicited materials. And I think it's really important to always either, if you're accepting materials, have it come from like a lawyer or something to that effect. Even as a manager, when I'm out on the road with an artist, if a fan decides to hand over music to someone, hey, check out my song, because of the way the world is, and this story is just one small microcosm. Riffs, pop riffs, current riffs, they feel the same. They are the same. There's very similar chord progressions in a lot of music, and I know those progressions usually have to match a vocal melody, but it's becoming more common than not. So I think as an artist, you need to be careful. And anyways, that'll be my 3 cents on that.
Yeah, and this is one of those times that he's claiming that it was done on spec. And he's already worked for them. He's already that was the other thing, is that he already scored one of the soundtrack, and now they're saying it's like he had some other music, but the catch on top of this was it wasn't like they just used it and it was sitting in his catalog. He released it as pieces in another song, and now the label's also involved in it too.
I'm sure that there's some kind of hijinks somewhere. It's just usually the case. I mean, unfortunately, people hear music, it gets seeped into the subconscious somewhere. Someone hears it, and then, especially if you're working with an artist or working, like this with an artist, sometimes you feel like, oh, it would be a great idea if we did this. And it's like, it's usually, again, in my experience, I found somehow, I don't know, ripping off the artist in some way, but I guess we'll learn more.
Exactly.
And I think too, this is another one of those situations where the lawyers are going to get paid in this situation, and that's going to be the outcome. The lawyers will all get paid. But Brett, it's a great point that there are only 12 notes. There are only so many things that occur naturally to us to just kind of do. Take, for example, a blues form feels very natural. How can you say a blues form was stolen from somebody or belongs to somebody? So there's just a really fine line. But when I was in high school, my friend and I decided to write a song, and we very innocently wrote this song we thought was going to be a hit. And then we unfortunately realized that Steven Tyler had already written it, and that Aerosmith had put it out before either one of us were born. And unfortunately, we had unintentionally ripped off a song that we had both forgotten we had heard. But it's easy to see how you can accidentally borrow too much of someone else's idea. And to your point, Brett, too, it's so important not to play uncopyrighted music for people because you just don't know.
Yeah, people will take advantage. And did Steven Tyler write that song, or was it like Dionne Warren? Did she actually write the song? Right? Isn't she?
Yeah,
it was back
his
when,
main songwriter.
it was back when Steven Tyler was still writing it.
Right. I'm just being a smartass.
well, yeah, and it's also like
love it.
you have like sound-alikes, and people started to shy away from sound-alikes because blurred lines. So there, yeah, we could go down that rabbit hole for a lot of these songs and what's going on. But going to go move on to
just real quick, Peter, if
yep.
it's okay, I want to say hi to Julie, who's joined us on the stage. Hi, Julie.
Oh, hey, Julie. What's up, Julie? Oh, she might not have the mute button working. I think she was on. There we go. Hey, Julie, how you doing?
Hi, guys. I did want to just say one thing about that last story, and of course, my first thought as a somewhat copyright holder for certain songs that have had that situation done where they were taking the music from other music. I think a lot of that has to do with too, they did, like he said, they did for what, Grand Auto Theft 4 or whatever. I'm not with the games, but and if they already worked with them, what was the contract there? Was it like a work for hire thing? Because if that was the case, maybe and again, the lawyers are absolutely going to make out on this. But if they were on a work for hire contract with Grand Auto Theft 4, then it's conceivable that the company just totally said, hey, we have this music for 4, we can use little tidbits in 5. So it does happen all the time. And but it should be interesting to see what happens in court.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point because, we don't know the contract. I mean, he claims spec. It was on spec, or was it part of a bigger deal that they asked him to write it specifically for them to have right of first refusal? These are things that we have no idea about.
Right. Let's hope somebody has some E&O insurance somewhere for this.
All right. Thanks for that, Julie. Great to see you on here. And so I'm going to move a few articles left. This one is from GeekWire. I had to read this one because I am such a fan of this. The title is called Rock Fans Dig Deep for Mudhoney and Vote to Name Seattle Tunnel Machine after the longtime band. And you got to see the picture of this. It is absolutely fantastic. It's in the show notes at musicindustrycity.com. And that you can find the show notes there. So let me kick this over. So the article is starts on move aside, earth beneath Seattle. Here comes some hard rock. Clever. Seattle Public Utilities has announced that a tunnel boring machine that will be used to carve a path for the city's Ship Canal water quality project has been named Mudhoney after the longtime grunge band. The moniker beat out more than 1,200 submissions for names submitted by the community to become a finalist. It then received more than 30,000 votes to eclipse a few more, including Sir Diggs-a-Lot, and appreciates Sir Mix-a-Lot, as well as Daphne Molly and the Mole and Boris the Plunger. Band members unveiled this specially painted machine by artist Devin Finley in a ceremony complete with video, which you can actually watch that whole video. Mudhoney will get to work this summer as Seattle Public Utilities and the King County Wastewater Treatment Division starts on a 2.7-mile long, 18-foot, 10-inch diameter storage tunnel running beneath several neighborhoods as part of the Ship Canal water quality. So, I mean, as a fan of the Seattle scene and as a fan of Mudhoney back in the day, I had to share this one. In other more just lighthearted news, a little fun was this one is in Newsweek. And Newsweek had an article and it was called The Best-Selling Albums for the Last 65 Years. And it starts off with far more than manipulation of sound for the mere sake of human enjoyment. Great music can stir up epic range of motion actions. And it goes on with this really long-winded intro. But let's get to what this is about. So they talk about what they did is they go in chronological order from 1956 to 2020. And it's the best-selling albums from the last 65 years. So do you remember the top album from the year you graduated high school? It's Stacker is the company that analyzed Billboard data to determine just that. Looking at the best-selling albums from every year going all the way back to 1956. Sales data is included only from 1992 onward when the Nielsen Sound Scan began gathering computerized figures. So this is, the first one's Calypso, Harry Belafonte in 1956. There's a lot of soundtracks. Sound and Music, My Fair Lady, West Side Story, Hello Dolly, and then it starts getting into the Are You Experienced? And then you got Davida, Bridge Over Troubled Water. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but some of these, Rumors, Billy Joel, and there's Michael Jackson made a few appearances. So this is a really just a fun article that you can find in the show notes there. We're going to wrap up. Article in Complex, and this article is also showing up in a few other places, and this is going to be the final one before we open up to the roundtable. Eli, I think you're muted.
Oh, thank you. I did not get that mute button unmuted. The joy of the touch screen there. Thank you. Hey, everybody. We are doing the Music News Power Hour today and every day from 12 to 1 Eastern. We cover all the news that you actually want to hear about and discuss. And so if there's something we're talking about in today's headlines, you can feel free to raise your hand. Hands up. We bring a whole new meaning to hands up, and come join us on the stage because we actually do want to discuss these news headlines. You can join us here daily at 12 to 1 Eastern. We begin with some headlines and then we open up the room for a roundtable discussion, which is where we are now. So, Peter, over to you. Let's discuss.
All right. So, this is the last article here. I wanted to bring this, and I know Jordan, who has joined on stage, he has actually submitted an article, something to talk about here, which is important. It affected Canada last week and U.S. this week, but this one I wanted to bring this because we've been talking about mental health the last few days, and this one is Chika said she's retiring because of the mental toll of the music industry. Coming off the heels of a Grammy nomination, she said she just decided to step away from the music because of the, quote, mental toll of the music industry. She posted, she made a tweet, and then she had to make another tweet. And it's a message on her Twitter Sunday, which was titled, quote, "It's really cool watching the world not give a fuck and paint you as a villain. Chika said she can no longer deal with the people cheering for the decline of her mental health. Quote, "Today I shared that I was thinking of retiring because the mental toll being in the industry has taken on me is not something you bounce back from easily. I've told my team, I've told my therapist, I've told my friends and acquaintances. Today I told Twitter. What followed was a horde of psychotic fans rejoicing in the decline of my mental health, harassing me as if I spoke to them first. She went on to explain that she suffers from depression. Quote, when you have depression, the negative self-talk you have towards yourself is deafening. Now imagine a slew of weirdos dogpiling on top of thoughts you already have to fight off yourself. It's not fucking cool. It's not trolling or stan culture. You're pushing people to the point of no return. And no, I don't feel bad for wishing death on people who shit like that, because you deserve the same fate as the people you affect. With that said, I'm out. If it doesn't work, I'll try again. IDC, set in context. I don't care. Have fun. I never liked it here anyway. So, they went on. She's like, basically said, I came on here and said I was retiring because that's where I'm at, physically, mentally, and emotionally. She said, quote, and you stupid bitches flooded my comments immediately, not knowing the fuck I'm going through. You want me to give a good goddamn about you and your stupid ass fifth grade stand friend. So, this is something that it's that kick them when they're down problem that's been going on. And, so just is something we should be remembering that, we don't know what people are going through at any time, especially through all this. So, it's we want to make sure that we're there and supportive of each other.
Peter, I don't know about anybody else on the stage, but for me, this is a tough one to process. This is a heavy article to unpack. I don't know about anybody else. Anybody else feel that weight?
It was
I definitely do. I definitely feel something from it, and I mean, I can see on one hand, where that person's coming from. We could only imagine what that level of success and the demands that comes with it, does to people, especially being under, the scrutiny of the public eye. But of course, on the other hand, people will say, well, if, this is the career that you wanted, something you're going to have to deal with. So there's multiple things here, but no, mental illness is definitely something that I don't think people take seriously enough. And I remember speaking to it was a psychiatrist years ago, and she told me, she goes, the same part of the brain where mental illness is developed is the same part of brain where creativity is developed. So in many cases, people who are autistic or schizophrenic or so on and so forth, those people are usually super creative individuals. So yeah, I'm Frank and I'm done speaking.
Hi, I'm Raji, and I would love to follow up on what Frank said. That was pretty much what I wanted to come up and say too. I have had clients for 3 decades that are beyond creative, very left of center, and as the years have progressed, many of them have come out publicly uh, with mental illness and being on the spectrum. I've been very involved in a nonprofit for most of my career called the Sims Foundation. It's based out of Austin, Texas. But they offer resources for not only the musician, but for the musician's entire family and team. They'll pay for counseling, rehab, pills, whatever is needed to keep that artist healthy. We have 3 organizations that do similar work in Austin, Texas. One of them created around my old client who's no longer with us, Daniel Johnson. So I just feel like it is the most important overlooked issue, and I know it's getting some attention recently, but things like that news article just take us back to the dark ages. So I just wanted to offer my support. If anybody ever wants to talk about this subject, all my DMs are open. It's very close to my heart. Thank you. I'm done
Thank you,
speaking.
Raji.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
make sure you do hit up Raji for information. Raji is a great resource to everybody in the industry that has a struggle. Raji is somebody that you can talk to and somebody that you can turn to. So Raji, thank you so much for being here and being such a support system for everybody that you work with in this industry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Raji.
Hi, everybody. Rasan here. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rasan.
I just want to, hey, I just
Good
want
afternoon.
to, hi, Eli. Hi, Peter. I just want to tag in on this topic. And just, it's not so much something that I personally went through myself which of course I consider myself greatly lucky in that sense. But I once worked really closely with an up and coming artist who was is extremely talented, and of course, for respect of her craft and her name, I'll leave her name out. But she really so creative, and in a split second was on the edge of mental breakdown every turn of success. And this is something that I personally did not want for this to happen for her, or of course you don't want that for anybody that you really care about, but it had gotten to the point where she she just she just snapped, and for lack of a better term. And it's one of those where somebody like myself or other folks who can probably you know saddle along with this emotion. But sometimes, when you're in this administrative position in trying to help an artist or work with an artist, and you're really supporting them in the sense of getting them all the best opportunities and getting them to shine in the best and highest light that you see for them, sometimes the illness is just undefeatable sometimes. And
That's so true, Rasan. And just want to, if I may, I want to cut in
mhm.
and say that what's really heavy for me about this article, yeah, we've talked a lot about mental health, and what's really heavy for me is that we're looking at how the audience, we almost have like a gladiator style cheering for the tragedy in the center of the arena. That's almost become a spectacle to watch an artist fall apart. And I want to just quickly reference before we move on, Britney Spears. Remember when Britney Spears began really struggling, the tabloids loved it. They followed her everywhere and took her picture, and she shaved her head and hit a car with an umbrella and had to be hospitalized. She got so terrified, and it felt, when in those moments, like Britney Spears, like the media was saying, yes, excellent, we thought this would happen. And it felt horrible to watch a person fall apart and feel like there was gladiator style cheering happening by the maybe by the media, maybe by the fans. So it's more than just the mental health, it's the reaction from everybody else as well. And let's all remember that it's not entertainment to watch an artist fall
Not by
apart,
any
ever.
means.
Ever,
Right.
It's
yeah,
Yeah.
never
no,
it's never
ever, yeah,
fun.
ever,
And
ever,
it's
yeah. and
something,
and
go
and
ahead.
it can happen so easily. So let's all be that support system that the artists need in every way that we can. It's so hard, it's so
Oh,
hard.
of
And
course.
Peter, I think I
Right.
cut you off though, I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. I think this is great, and this is a really important discussion. And the reason that's why I made sure to bring this article into the news today is because we've seen a lot of this going on. We see a lot of like artists and musicians and people in general, and we talk about Azalea Banks was saying like the music industry didn't do enough for DMX, and it's like it needs to be brought to the light that we need to the change something. It's like, where's that starting point? There's multiple different areas, and something needs to change. And how does that something change, and what exactly is it, and how can that be made into a positive effect and change throughout the industry and supporting each other? I mean, it's something just overall. Final thoughts on that, because I do have one more article I do want to pull up, because this was submitted by Jordan, and we can go back to the any other topics that we covered as we wrap up the final 11 minutes. We're going into the final 11 minutes here of the news power hour. So thank you everybody so far for these topics and the conversation. This one, thank you, Jordan. And this one was from Yahoo. Vaccine expert: the U.S. doesn't need to rely on Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The FDA CDC recommends pause in Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. Dr. Paul Offit, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, Director of the Vaccine Education Center and Professor of Pediatrics in the Division of Infectious Diseases, joins Yahoo Finance to discuss the latest setback in vaccination. So there's a lot to unpack in this article here. I will add this to the show notes after the show. Experts say U.S. vaccination efforts aren't likely to be significantly affected after the U.S. FDA and the CDC halted use of Johnson & Johnson's vaccine Tuesday due to concerns of rare side effect. The FDA and CDC said in a joint statement that out of more than 6.8 million doses administered of the J&J vaccine, that there were 6 reports, including one fatality of a rare blood clot in the brain known as cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. Quote, all 6 cases occurred among women between the ages of 18 and 48, and symptoms occurred 6 to 13 days after vaccination, according to the statement. We are recommending a pause in the use of this vaccine out of an abundance of caution, the 2 health agencies added. New York and New Jersey announced Tuesday they would pause administering the vaccine. And as a result, the pharmacies Walgreens and CVS said they, too, will heed the advice. Quote, we are immediately suspending the administration of J&J vaccine at our stores and off-site clinics and are awaiting further guidance. We are reaching out to patients with scheduled appointments and rescheduling vaccinations from other manufacturers as supply allows. All right. So it continues to go on. And, it's a lot, there's a lot I'll put the article in so you can see the full link. This is something that in Canada, I believe it was a week or 2 ago, they put a pause on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine due to some concerns. They didn't have any cases reported at the time, but it was also concerns on the EU. And Jordan, did you want to take the lead on this one? Your thoughts?
Yeah, hey guys. I just thought that it was obviously relevant to what we're planning on doing. If we're trying to bring live music back, we need everyone vaccinated as quickly and effectively as possible. The thing that stuck out to me is, he says, it quotes a scientist from Philadelphia saying that he doesn't think we necessarily need to rely on the Johnson & Johnson, and we are going to be able to vaccinate all Americans by midsummer. And I guess I'm trying to figure out what midsummer means. In some regards, I guess you can consider July 4th, as Biden had said before, as midsummer. I would think that this would clearly have to pause things, delay things at least a little bit. They were expected to deliver 100 million doses by the end of May, and now that won't be either happening or won't be relevant. They'd had production issues before in their Baltimore facility, which was also not helping with vaccine hesitancy. The numbers that I've seen are roughly between 37% and 45% of respondees would call themselves vaccine hesitant, which means that, they're not clamoring to get it right now, and we need as many people to get it as quickly as possible. So I'm just curious what other people think about how this affects the timeline.
Well, I will say, Jordan, that I know personally a lot of people who were really looking forward to getting the J&J and they were claiming to get it here on the East Coast just as absolutely as quickly as possible. And it's been relatively difficult, for some people to find in certain places here on the East Coast. But I know a lot of folks who said that they were going to hold out until they found the J&J. So I'm interested to just kind of see what the mindset of those folks will be. I know you mentioned people who are vaccine hesitant, people who flinch at the idea. I'm wondering if there's going to be kind of a positive mindset from anybody who was waiting for the J&J vaccine, who might just say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to get what I can. I'm curious now.
Yeah,
My
that
wife
would be
got
a
the
positive result.
Eli?
We got Julie and Mike.
Oh,
Mike, ladies first, Julie, and then Mike.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I was
Awesome.
just going to say, I just got the J&J shot. That was the one I wanted. But reading, you have to look at the statistics of everything. And, there's 6 cases out of millions of already dosed people. And I agree with Jordan that this could be a holdup in the plans of getting everybody vaccinated, which is the plan to getting everybody back to work. And I feel okay. I was holding out for the J&J shot, and to me, I have needle phobia, so one and done. I'm happy, and
right.
We really don't know. It was interesting to me that the FDA got involved, because when I was waiting my 15 minutes after the shot, they handed me all this information about the shot. And I thought to myself, my God, it's the kind of thing that if you read it first, you'd be like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm not doing this. But that's going to be the case with all of these shots, because they were they were rushed for emergency use.
That's very true. I wanted to let you know, Julie, I got my first dose of a 2-dose shot, and I was actually handed that packet of information as I queued up to get my shot. They handed it to me beforehand. So I actually read it beforehand, and I will tell you, I don't advise reading it beforehand. I think you should read it afterwards. I'm with you on that. If you read it first, you wouldn't feel so comfortable. But I'm with you. But that's the way all of the vaccines are. But I'm really glad that you're feeling well, and you're right. That's a small percentage of cases out of a huge number of vaccinated citizens. So that's a good point.
And they didn't do that because there's also, been similar problems in some senses with the Moderna and the Pfizer. And
right.
People, we all have different bodies. Everybody's going to react differently.
I think inherently there are going to just be issues with anything, right, at this point, but I think the bigger issue, we all agree, the bigger issue would be for us all not to be vaccinated and for concerts to stay closed for another 24 months. Nobody wants that. Nobody. No, please God, no. But Mike, we have just a couple of minutes left. This is the Music News Power Hour, and so we do try to wrap it up in 60 minutes. We're here every weekday from 12 to 1 Eastern, and we are almost at that 1 o'clock hour. But Mike, I know you've been waiting. What did you have to share with us? I always love hearing your thoughts.
I don't know if it was. I was just going to chime in and say that my wife got the J&J shot. I got the Pfizer one. I got the second one this morning, but she got this the J&J one about a couple weeks ago. But I woke up this morning to her telling me that the J&J shot was being recommended not to use, and that the blood clot issue happens 10 days to 2 weeks after you've had the shot. So she's a little nervous. I mean, I think it's probably not warranted given the statistics, but it's concerning.
Mike, you got the second one today?
I did, yes.
Prepare yourself, my friend.
I know. I'm assuming that here in a few hours, I'm probably going to be out of commission for a day.
So, Eli and Peter, I did a live stream the same day, and they popped in and checked it out on Twitch. And right after this live stream, I got it in the morning, my husband and I, right around 9 p.m. I think we probably got it at 10 a.m. that day. It hit us like a freight train. It only lasted a day, so I'm not trying to scare you, but it was the real deal.
How many hours after?
About 10.
Wow.
So, Mike, the clock is ticking. Make sure that you get chicken soup and a heating pad, and just kind of hole up for 24 hours. You said, Jesse?
Yep, just 24 hours.
Okay,
All right.
Brace yourself, Mike. We're going to be thinking of you tomorrow. You're going to have to update us and let us know.
Thank you.
Right on. Yeah, ice packs, Tylenol, everything like that. There is one thing. So just to wrap up on the article here, it does say in one section, it does say that they don't expect it to affect because, the pharmacy sites have reviewed, Biden's target to vaccinate 200 million people in the first 100 days. They're saying that they don't expect this to affect the rollout, but, it says JJ pause is unlikely to affect the U.S. rollout as both mRNA vaccines comprise the vast majority of the committed doses the country has to purchase, 300 million total from both Moderna and Pfizer and BioNTech. So my thing is, they're saying that it is uncertain. Adding, we are going to be able to vaccinate all Americans by midsummer. And the thing I just did when there's doses that are allocated to each state by the federal government, there was 300,000 per week. And that's doses. That's not, it's a single shot. So when I did the math of, say, New York State, 19 million people, it would take 15 months to happen at 300,000 a week. Granted, then we got more, it started picking up. So now that was close to Johnson & Johnson. It picked up to like 450, maybe 500,000 a week. So that's going to lower the timeline. But, now with this being paused, it has to have some kind of effect. I mean, we hope that it's going to be able to vaccinate all Americans by midsummer, but it's going to be tough. And I hope we do, though. I hope we do.
That would be great, but I feel like that's kind of a bold, it almost feels like a campaign trail promise that keeps going,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the
All
key to
right.
that 300 million number is that those are the two dose. So that's only 150 million people, which is only half of America.
Exactly. That's the big thing that is the takeaway. So really quick, let's just do any final thoughts. We covered a lot today. The Songwriter Fund reopening, YouTube's one of the only social media platforms with growth since 2019. Copyright lawsuit against Rockstar Games. Problem with NFTs because, NFTs. And Chika is retiring from the music industry because of the mental toll. And we just talked about the fact that Johnson & Johnson is on ice right now. So, quick final thoughts. I'm going to go. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Boo to me. I just put 5 minutes on the clock. Oh, the 5-minute button's right above the boo, and I kind of didn't look at it. It was like, oh, Eli's laughing at me right now, as you can see. I put 5 minutes overtime on the clock.
I'm laughing because I know how easy it is. If you've never done production, it's as simple as typing the wrong thing on your touchscreen.
So you can all check out that scene on Music Industry City's YouTube channel, my Twitch channel, Facebook. We're everywhere. We're on like 10 different platforms right now, live streaming. And that also reminds me, musicindustrycity.com. You can go there. You can register for free. Musicindustrycity.com. And we send out a weekly email of saying, like, here's all the Clubhouse shows, but we do so much more outside of Clubhouse. We do live streaming video talks. We partner up with the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment to put on a VR networking, VR talk. We are also doing VR, and in Alt Space VR, we have these networking shows, talk shows, and we do a lot more than that. So you can check out musicindustrycity.com, register free. Plus, the Clubhouse show notes are there, and you can click on that, and you get the link too. So you just look for the graphic that is Clubhouse Information Center. You click on that, you can get a link to all the show notes that have all the articles here. So, any final thoughts from any of the topics today? We have just a little less than 4 minutes.
I feel like today was just such a huge day. I'm still processing everything that we covered today. So much. And usually we're chuckling about NFTs, and today we had some very serious NFT news, and that's still sticking with me too. So wow, a lot to unpack today.
I actually skipped over a few articles I had scheduled because there was a lot. I started putting them in order. Like, I'll read them. I'm like, oh yeah, this would be good to add in. This would be good. And it's like, then once you start doing during the show, you're like, oh wow, there's a lot to unpack. Might as well just burn the whole suitcase instead.
I love it. I like that mentality. Burn the suitcase.
But
let's not and say we did.
All right, yes.
Let's definitely not burn the suitcase and say that we did. This is the Music News Power Hour, and we want to thank everybody in the room for joining us and everybody on stage for joining in the conversation. We also want to thank everybody who is watching as we stream not just audio, but video live. You can check us out streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and other streaming platforms like Facebook. So check out Music Industry City and the Music News Power Hour wherever you stream your music news, and join us right here on Clubhouse every weekday, 12 to 1 Eastern, where we discuss all the music news that you actually want to hear about. For my co-host Peter, my name is Eli. Thank you so much, everybody. Music News Power Hour back tomorrow. Peter, over to you.